In the previous video, we already learned about like palette developments and also like basic architecture of the palette, like storage, how to like emit an event, also like specify the error when like you want to tow something from your dispatchable functions. And I believe like from that video, you already like get like the overall idea how the palette gonna look like and how to develop your old palette. And today, videos in the Open Polkadot Bootcamp, we're gonna learn about some of the most common palette, and also like you're gonna learn like how the structure and also like the common logic. And right here, I already cloned the code base for the Polkadot SDK. You can discover this Polkadot SDK code base on GitHub. When you search on Polkadot SDK parody, you're gonna see it. So the Polkadot SDK, as we learned, that like is a tool, an open source repository provided by Parity Technology Company, and for like Polkadot development, building a blockchain. There's a few different other software built by Parity as well, not in the Polkadot SDK, but anything about Polkadot SDK, you can discover it in this repository. And as we already learned, Substrate is a core component of Polkadot SDK that allow any developer to build their own blockchain. And the substrate is located under a substrate folder in the Polkadot SDK, and you can see here. So to find the frame libraries, you're gonna discover the frame folder under the substrate folder, and in this frame folder, you're gonna have all the palette. The first palette that I want to introduce to you is the executive module. Executive module is the underlying palette that handle all kind of things like dispatch transactions and also like initialize a block, apply extrinsics, or execute a block. And it is a very low level module that like apply for all the things, for all the dispatchable function or for all the palette on top of Substrate. Provides the function to check transaction validity, initialize a block, apply extrinsic, execute a block, finalize a block, and start an option worker. And one thing that I want to note down about this executive module is not actually a palette, so it doesn't follow any structure of the palette. Like it doesn't have any like palette macro and doesn't expose any entry point similar to other normal palette. But like it's provide like many different functions for the runtime to use to execute the block, like try execute block, and also like on runtime operate. The another palette that I want to introduce is a pseudo module that allow you to execute any runtime code as a super user. Like when you want to do any like sensitive actions, like writing to the file storage that is sensitive, you have to be the super user, provide the sudo command, and then like enter your password to become like the super user. The purpose of the super user in any like computer system is like to make sure that like you have the authority, the authorizations to take the actions over the computer system, and also like give you like a time for the second thought on like whether like that actions is make sure to be executed, because like those are sensitive actions. So in terms of the computer system like a blockchain, you also like have a pseudo module. So a pseudo module allows for a single account called the pseudo key to execute dispatchable functions that require root call or designate a new account to replace them as a pseudo key. So looking at the dispatchable functions of the pseudo module, that you have like the pseudo that like make a root call to a dispatchable function, and set key assign a new account to be the pseudo key. So we're gonna go to like palette call, and you find like the pseudo key, the pseudo dispatchable function. So this method, what it do is like it's wrap over a runtime call. So you provide a runtime call, maybe like a method called like transfer from our palette template that we developed in the last video. So you provide it in this call, and the origin for this call, if the origins is the root account or the pseudo or has a pseudo key, then it can dispatch that and bypass any like filters from the runtime as a root. And as we already mentioned about the origin before, so the power of the origin is like it's gonna can provide another validation layer on top of the submitted origin. So when you submit an origin, you must like ensure that origin must be a pseudo. So in this case, we have to make sure that that origin is the super user to execute the transactions. We're gonna like make sure like, okay, so if the sender is size or a root is not a root, then like it must have the pseudo key. Otherwise, we told in error require pseudo. That's how the ensure pseudo method works. We have another method called a set key that is basically set a new account as the pseudo as the sudo key. It's also like provide a method to delegate the sudo permissions to all the accounts to execute on behalf of the sudo. And the last method would be like remove key, that is remove the sudo key from the account. So if like you an origin, you no longer to want to have this sudo key, you can invoke this dispatchable function to remove that key from your. The third method that I want to introduce to you is the utility module, because like it is named utility. That means like most of the time you can also like use this in your old palette for side coupling, or like you also like can use it to like the Polkadot console to interact with the module. So what the utility module do is it provide you some functionality to batch dispatch. So the batch dispatch, that means you like can like combine a set of dispatchable functions under like one dispatchable intrinsics, and then you can execute it by just signing like one time. So it only requires a single signature verified. So in that way, like let's say like you can do like set an on-chain identity, then let's repeat the transaction. So in that way, like the user experience is seamless and you don't have like to sign multiple times. That is how amazing this utility module is. So in the Ethereum, you gonna have like the EIP similar to that, which is called like ERC for 237 account abstractions. And to this utility module in Substrate, you can also like provide a similar account abstractions experience to the user. Similar to the sudo palette that we just visit. Here like we have the batch. So instead of like provide only like one single core, you can like have like multiple core, because like it is a batch functions. So this dispatchable functions is asks you to provide like a vector of runtime core with the origin. The core is like the core to be dispatched from the same origin. The number of core must not exist the constant batch core limit. And if the origin is root, then the core are dispatched without checking origin filter. This includes bypassing the frame system config based core filter. And as we already visit some palette that is more on the computer system level, now we also like want to learn about some palette that is on the consumer level. So here we have like the membership module that provide your Substrate a use case to manage the membership of the account. So we learned about like the palette storage in the previous video as well. So here in the palette membership, you can see like to manage the membership, it's gonna like provide a palette storage called like the members, which is a storage value, a scala, which is about it vector that like store all the account ID, and it is about it by the max number provided from the runtime to configure this palette. On the other hand, there's also a single storage value called the RAM. This is the current RAM member if one exists. And in that way, you can see like this palette membership is very simple. Like it's gonna provide some method like the add member. So add member, like when you call it the who, and you must like the origin that is provided as the add origin can execute this method, and that is how amazing the origin system is. And to this dispatchable functions, the who gonna be like added to the member by try insert, and it's gonna like put to the members, and then like it's gonna like dispatch an event called a membership change. So like any other palette that interact with this palette membership can implement a callback called membership change, and then that way when the membership change, it's gonna like execute this callback. Then we also like have the method called like remove member and swap member and reset member. So those are like some basic functionality of the basic app membership. And you can see like programming a palette is also like similar to like programming in any other programming language, or basically just programming in Rust. And those are some common runtime modules that I think like you guys might be interested. And there's also a lot more runtime module that you also very useful for you during your Substrate development experience. And that's also the end of this video, and hope that's useful to your learning journey.